We have a 5-minute warning before he comes out here.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Good.
Let's go. Oh, y'all, come on. All right. Is all the press ready? We want to make sure y'all guys are ready. And ladies, okay. Julia, you ready over there? You pay attention? No? Okay. I don't want you to miss anything now. All right. Well, certainly, I want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to recognize the legislative leadership and the treasurer, state treasurer, John Fleming's here with us, who's a veteran as well, served in the Air Force, Navy. He wished he served it. No, I'm just joking. Brigadier General Michael Greer is the director of the Louisiana Military Department. The Speaker of the House, Philip DeVilliers, Senate President Cameron Henry, the Appropriations Chair, Jack McFarland, Senate Finance Chair, Glenn Womack, and the Speaker Pro Tem, Mike Johnson. This past Sunday, I took a trip over to the border at an invite by Governor Abbott. Both myself and the First Lady and 13 other governors went down to Eagle Pass, Texas, to get a briefing where we got a full briefing from Governor Abbott and Adjutant General of the Texas National Guard. And then we went out and viewed the problem on the border. Now, we all know, in fact, I would say that probably everyone either watching or listening or reading the stories that are going to be written today, and many of the men and women behind us know someone who has lost a loved one to fentanyl. I mean, there are 125,000 Americans that we are losing on an annual basis due to this crisis. And we know, as Governor Abbott explained to us, that 30,000 pounds of fentanyl was seized at the border in Texas. That's enough to kill almost everyone in the country. And so this is an absolute emergency. What's interesting is when we went down there, okay, there are two ports of entry. There are two bridges that cross the Rio Grande and Eagle Pass. Both of those bridges hold ports of entry for this country. Both of those bridges, at the end of them, are manned by Border Patrol and Customs to allow people to come in and out of the United States legally. But what the government has done, what the president has done, is basically dog whistled to those who are trying to come into the country illegally and say, listen, if you just swim across the Rio Grande, we'll let you in that way. And so then all of a sudden, you start to see 5,000 and 6,000 people having to swim across the Rio Grande to get into the country illegally, by the way, so that then our Customs and Border Patrol have to then process them. And in Texas, and then it puts pressure on Texas, which eventually puts pressure on Louisiana and other states around the country. So the governor decided that he was going to start to plug the holes in the border. And he used the National Guard to do so. In fact, the states of Iowa, the states of Florida, the states of Tennessee, the states of Missouri, the states of Alaska have all committed to send National Guard troops to help the state of Texas. Now, after I left that trip, as I was going back home, I called the Speaker and the Senate President first and told them about what we saw there and what that request was. And both of them recognized that Texas, while they seem to have taken the brunt of the people that are outward migrating from our state into their state, they like those people. We'd like them to stay. They recognize that Texas has always been a great neighbor to us. And that if they're calling, that we should heed that particular call. And so we put through talking to the legislative leadership and to the legislators, and we called and talked to Jack and to Glenn about what we needed to support our troops in sending them down to the border. They all agreed that we should do that. And so what we're doing here today is exactly that. Because the federal government will not act, because the president will not do his job, because Congress refuses to put in place a solid immigration plan that protects this country and allows people to come in and out of this country the way it has been done since the beginning, then the states are going to act. And so Today, we stand in uniform agreement in heeding Texas's call and Governor Abbott's call to send National Guardsmen down to the border. And I want to say something about that as well, because and the general's going to repeat this if you have any questions for him. This actually serves a purpose in helping Louisiana too, because it shows and trains our National Guardsmen, of which I was one, for readiness and active duty and service, the things that they all sign up for. So this money that some people are claiming is wasted is not wasted. It helps to prepare our troops. It helps to train our troops. And it also helps our neighbors in Texas. And then there are some out there that are going to complain about a $3 million cost. Well, I would like them to look in the eye of the Kenner Chief of Police, Chief Conley, and ask him what the cost to that city is on a crime that's affecting his city. And a big chunk of it is by gangs of undocumented people. Or why don't you look into the eyes of the mother or the father or the uncle or the grandfather who has lost someone to fentanyl that we can directly trace to a border that is wide open, that is letting the cartel do as they please into this country. And so really, I tell you, this is one of the most proudest days I can even ever have imagined, to see all these great men and women here who are dedicated to public safety and to the security not only of the state of Louisiana, but of the nation as well. And so with that, I want to thank them personally. And I hope the citizens of the state thank them as well. And then I'd like to open this up to any questions that y'all may have. Yes, ma'am.
What sort of duties will National Guard troops be authorized to undertake at the border?
I'm going to let the general answer that.
So the duties that we'll be expected to handle are those that we've been trained for and that the soldiers have participated in different exercises, as well as when they deploy for state emergencies here or elsewhere. So we'll be in support of the Texas National Guard in what they're doing at the border.
Are troops permitted to detain migrants?
So our troops will not be doing any detention. If they encounter illegal border crossers, they will refer those to local law enforcement who have the responsibility to make those arrests or do whatever it is under Texas law.
Yes, sir.
Did Governor Abbott ask for any specific type of personnel, such as communications specialists or engineering specialists?
No, he didn't ask me for anything specific. We left it up. Look, one of those, General Freeloop, our new adjutant general, actually traveled to the border with me. I think y'all saw him in some of those pictures. And so I just put him in touch, and because his counterpart in Texas was there as well, and we just left that up to the generals. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. So you mentioned that this will help train the troops. They'll be operating under the authority of the Texas National Guard, and then if there are any issues, who assumes liability?
So for the first part, anytime that we plan this type of operation, that we mobilize soldiers, that they conduct training in order to make movement to Texas, those types of training events build readiness and capability in our National Guard in order to respond to state emergencies like they always have been. So it's a very good training event for us that we benefit greatly from. The second part to that is that they will be operating in Texas under the authorities of the Texas National Guard and doing missions as assigned through the Texas National Guard.
So Texas would assume responsibility for any liability?
They will be doing their missions with the Texas Guard, and anything that extends to the Texas National Guard would also extend to our soldiers as well.
Yes, ma'am.
When specifically will the troops deploy, and how long will they be there?
Well, again, look, here's what I will tell you. These plans are being laid out by those like General Greer and General Freeloop and the Texas National Guard military leaders. I know that my belief is that this deployment would probably not start to sometime maybe in March. But again, I view this as a military operation, and so I'm not going to tell you exactly what the military plans are. But that's when I think the deployment would start at that particular time, unless Texas believes we need them any time sooner. Julie.
First of all, I want to say thank you for holding the press conference. It's really helpful.
Well, thank you.
Governor, I have a question about whether you've read the 2022 investigation in the New York Times about Where Youth Center and what your reaction was to this story.
Yes, I did. And I know this is not why we're here today, but here's what I'll tell you. That we vet all of our appointees extremely carefully, and we review things under which that might be in their particular background. I will tell you that after speaking to elected leaders and those that are absolutely concerned about getting control of our juvenile crime problem in the state, that again and again, Kenny Lofton's name continued to come to the top. Sometimes the press doesn't give it all out. I was going to say sometimes. And sometimes the whole story is not possible to be put in print. But I will tell you that again, that if y'all give this gentleman an opportunity, I think that again, after talking to the legislative leadership, to the elected officials in that area, the senators and representatives, he came highly recommended by many senators. Again, his name continued to go to the top, and I have complete confidence that he is going to help us in that.
We have time for
Yes.
2 more questions.
Okay, we got to get.
Aside from legislative approval of that $3 million cost, what other procedural or legislative steps would this plan need to get through to become reality?
We are looking at all of our options to make sure that this mission is able to begin smoothly and end smoothly. Whether or not that includes any executive orders or not, we will be addressing those and writing those up as possible. Whatever the general needs. Let me make sure. Look, as a former soldier, the one thing I know is that the last thing that I want to do as an elected official is get in the way of what generals need. Because general officers care deeply about their soldiers, and they care deeply about completing the mission. And so my commitment to them and to the National Guard is that I will always heed the advice and the direction that they give us and they ask us for, while always communicating that back to the legislature as well. Okay, so one more. I can't see the light. Who's that?
This is Shannon. Sir, how many guardsmen are you sending? And if any border security legislation in Congress is passed anytime soon, would that influence you to bring them back sooner?
Wait, could you repeat that again?
How many guardsmen are you sending? And if there's any legislation passed in Congress being worked on, would that have you bring them back sooner?
Well, here's what I think. Again, I'm not gonna give particulars to a military mission. If the military and the National Guard wants to give that, then their POA can do that as well and give that to y'all. Here's what I tell you about Congress. This is the most amazing thing. I leave the border, and I can't remember if it was that afternoon or next morning. I get this alert that the Senate has reached a border bill, great agreement, bipartisan agreement. So now I look through the details of it. And I got to call Sharon. I said, Sharon, could you go get me an atlas? Make sure it's a very up-to-date atlas. Because according to this border bill, 50% or more of the funding is going to Ukraine. I don't know. Is the Ukraine on the border? I don't understand. That's supposed to be our border bill. Okay? This is the dysfunction. We are standing here today because the federal government refuses to act, because the president refuses to do his job. Now, look, we wouldn't be here today. 4 years ago, President Trump had that border sealed or was working to seal that border. I can promise you, if he was the president and Governor Abbott would have called him, he'd have made necessary the funds to go out there and seal the holes in that border. But what you hear is that, oh, there's a humanitarian crisis going on in all other places around the globe. But yet no one wants to talk about the humanitarian crisis in this country. No one wants to talk about the amount of deadly drugs, human trafficking, the women and children that they are trafficking through an open border. Like that seems to miss the media here, in the national media. We want to go out and talk about all of the other problems in everybody else's country, and then we want to spend billions of dollars everywhere else when we can spend just a half a fraction of that to seal our border and to get some order into our immigration process into this country. And so that's what I would say. But look, again, I really thank you. And again, I want to thank the legislators that are here today. I want to thank the legislative leadership. I think that this shows that we can absolutely govern and protect our citizens and our state and our country. And so again, I thank you for your time.